Barak, Ahaya, Alam, Shalom, Planet. Welcome back to TRU-TALK. In this part 2 of Mexicans are not Israelites. Now, this picture that you see on my screen, do you see Negroes or Mexicans? Do you see Hebrews or do you see Mexicans? Because these are what is called Afro Mexicans. And what a lot of these camps like to do deceitful when they talk about the Afro American population that's in Mexico and in South America, they like to try to bunch them in with the native Mexicans and Latinos. They like to try to deceitfully, when they have the conversations about the Afro Mexicans, they like to appear as if they talking about Mexicans, but they are not talking about the European Mexicans. They are talking about the Negroes that has been scattered. Now, before we get into this, let's talk about Bible and Bible prophecy, because we know the scripture says that Israel, especially Judah, would be scattered to the four corners of the earth. That means everywhere. Not only will they be scattered, but as we look at in Deuteronomy 28, there's going to be a sign upon these people. And one of the signs was that they would be few in number among the people that they scatter among the nations. And these Afro American, Afro Mexicans, as they call them, which remind me of another prophecy, that we will be called by bywords and names that are not ours. Now, these are not Mexicans, but because they are in Mexico, they are called Afro Mexicans. Just as Negroes in America are not Americans, but we are called African Americans. The byword has been put on us. What byword has been put on the Mexicans? It's funny, these camps, they like to try to say Mexican is a byword or Latino is a byword. No. African American is a byword. Afro Mexican is a byword. Because these are names given to a people that does not represent who they truly are at all, or tell them who they are. And it's even to be fronted down, but as we talk about prophecy, it says that Israel would be few in numbers amongst the nations. Now, the Negroes in America, and I'm just comparing the Negroes that's in America and the comparisons to the Negroes that's in Mexico or South America, what we have in common and how we fit the prophecy. And we don't have this in common with the Mexicans, but only with these people that we know descended from the African slave trade and are descendants of Hebrews. But in America, where we like 13% of the population, I think they say, sometimes we may get up to 17% or 18%, but usually we always drop down around between 14 to 13% of the population. A lot of people like to argue that, but that's the facts, and I agree with it because the scripture says we are going to be few in number. Plus, our young people are killing one another. Our women are aborting the babies more than any other women. Our men are in prison more than any other men. So yeah, the death among Israel and the amount of incarceration, along with Negroes just leaving their race period and missing out, uh, the number remains low. Now, amongst our brothers and sisters in Mexico, not the Mexicans, but the Hebrews that are few in numbers among the Mexicans, they are the same, few in number, mistreated, looked down upon in the place they're in. The Most High said he would scatter us amongst our enemies. So let's see if the Mexicans and the Latinos are friendly, or are they just as they white Caucasian cousins in America and mistreat these Hebrew brothers and sisters. Now, before we go a little farther, I just feel the need to say this. Mexican and South America has never been colonized, but the continent of Africa has been chopped up, as we all know, and spread it amongst the Europeans. The Europeans got a foothold in Africa and got majority of control of Africa in the African government. And that's not so with South America. Even though their government is corrupt and it got, a lot to do with drugs and the government being corrupt, America don't say nothing about Mexico or South America and their government being corrupt and how they mistreating their people. And while uh, Mexicans are fleeing from Mexican and South America, they're trying to head to America because of how the government left their people. No, the government, the U.S. has nothing to say about their distant cousin, the Mexico's or South America government. They allow them to govern themselves as they please, even though they being corrupt and doing a bad job at it. America does not interfere or say anything. But when it comes to the continent of Africa, how much they got to say about Africa? How much do they paint Africa in a bad picture? Last time I checked, uh, Africa is not a continent. is leading the world in drugs. South America is. But why that's not being talked about? Because these people, they stick to a code that we don't. See, we are the ones that scatter. We are the ones that are blind. That's in the noon grade we grow. We are the ones that had our wise counselors taken from us. We are the ones that does not have a leader. We are the ones that scatter, that's being slaughtered as sheep. But see, even when it comes to Mexico and the South Americans, they speak Spanish. That's how you know they're not colonized. They able to speak their language. But most African countries speak English. And most African presidents speak English. A lot of African presidents are just puppets of the West. But they let you know what group of people are colonized. They let you know that majority of the tribes are still in Africa and not South America. South America is the people that's left to govern themselves. Now, like I said in my other video, this world is not a paradise. This is a crooked, evil world. Our people are not the only people that's going to be oppressed, but that has been oppressed. But our people are the only people that fit the curses to the T. And not only the curses, but it's so much more the history and all that. But we're just going to stick with the basics. In this nation, what I like to call the distant cousins are Europeans, the South Americans, Mexicans. They are able to govern themselves as a people. They got their own continent, South America. Like I said before, even though they do a bad job at it, America does not criticize them or interfere with what's going on in South America. And these people are being oppressed, the Mexicans, by their own corrupt people. And that does not make them Hebrew. This is not a perfect world. It's not going to be a perfect world to Christ return and set up his kingdom. And then after that, the Most High set up his. But nevertheless, you're going to have people being oppressed in this world and mistreated. That don't make them Hebrews. And not to be harsh or to sound harsh and mean, but for years they call us violence and monkeys and all this crazy stuff. But for the most part, the continent of Africa is a peaceful. The African people are a peaceful people. But South America, the Mexicos, they are violent people. And I'm saying this, I'm going to just be direct. It's in their nature, it's who they are. Just like the Europeans are a very violent, uh, corrupt people. Even though, in America, they try to make themselves look like they got order. But they the only country going around bombing people. But nevertheless, the Mexican people are a nation of just savage people and wicked people. And that's just the truth of it. They just a savage group of people. And that's why they in the state they're in, and their distant cousin, the Europeans, the American, they just know how to be savage in a way that is not noticeable. They know how to describe it. They know how to start wars and bomb countries and make like they're doing it for the good. But nevertheless, we see the parallels between South America Mexicans and their distant cousin, the European, and how they are a free state, country, and government. But Africa is not like that. Africa disrespected, and the West think they have to tell Africa what to do, and they in Africa now taking all the resources and take advantage of the people. It's not because Africans are necessarily doing this to themselves, but when you look at South America, oh, these people are doing it to themselves. But we see that scriptures tell us that we was going to be scattered and we was going to be few in numbers amongst the nations. So it's not a coincidence that we got these Hebrews that are called African, that are called Afro Americans. Excuse me, I keep messing it up. It's called Afro Mexicans. It's in the nation of the Latinos or the Mexicans. That's are few in number and being mistreated. And let's look at that mistreatment for a little bit. Now this article is December 14th, 2015. So this is about 8 years ago. Not that long ago, 8 years ago. Now you can find this article and look it up yourself. It says Mexico official recognize 1.38 million Afros Mexicans in the natural census as black people fight against racism and invisibility throughout Latin America. What? How you gonna be fighting against racism against your own people if Latin America, its whole continent, South America is our people, and Mexicans are our people, our Hebrews? How are we gonna be racist against one another? That don't make sense, does it? Look, so plain. Those 12 fake charts. I mean, come on, y'all. You know darn well none of the tribes, we don't know what the tribes are like that. And it's funny, sometimes it make me laugh. They try to say, oh, you know, the roof high, ooh, and Jamaican, when they saying they high, ooh, so they Benjamin, and all these little just foolish things they try to pin out where the tribe at and who's who. And it's just foolish when you think about it. Make you want to shake your head. Like, even me as an African American that consider myself Judah, I can be Benjamin or I can be Levi. It's not guaranteed that I'm Judah. But those that we understand that Judah has been scattered, and through scripture we say, okay, we more likely are Judah. And we know that the other 10 tribes are more likely on the continent, but we all traveling, and so we know that the tribes are not just on the continent, the other 10 tribes of Israel, but the majority of them are, just like the majority of Judah is scattered to the four corners of the earth. But let's read this a little bit. It says, and we're not going to read the whole thing. It says, and what is being hailed as a step forward for people of African descent, Mexico has for the first time recognized the Afro-Mexican population. The decision reflects a long issue of what it means to be black in Latin America. What it means to be black in America. Sound familiar? They going through the same thing we going through. They are people. And I'm talking about the Afro-American, the Negroes that's in Mexico, not the Mexicans there. The Mexicans are the ones mistreating them. It goes on to say, the Mexican nation's national census is now accounting for the 1.38 million people of African ancestry. As for Huffington Post reports, since the 1910 Mexican Revolution, people of African descent has not been documented. What? So you telling me since then these people has been not been documented? They have not been in the system. So they've been considered illegal aliens. Crazy how the Mexicans come over here to America and they not documented. And they are being considered legal, illegal aliens. But the Hebrews that are born in Mexico are considered illegal. They don't have no document. How do you survive in a country like that? And if you look at some of these videos of the slums and ghettos in America, not in America, but yeah, in America, but in Latin America, in South America, and in Mexico, Negroes. The Negroes always in the slum, always in the worst part. But that don't get talked about. How many of our people are in the slums of Mexico and South America? They just, make like it says, our people don't even exist. It goes on to say the Latin American nation has maintained the national identity of Mexico's, whatever that is, which ignored the descendants of African slaves, while acknowledging those who come from the mixed background of indigenous people in Spanish colonization. And you see that? So they acknowledge mixed Hebrews that done mix in with the Mexicans. That's why you gotta be careful when you type in African, Afro, Mexicans. I noticed the pictures they like to try to put forth and show are the mixed ones, are the ones that mix with the indigenous Mexicans. But no, the Afro that I'm talking about, the African Americans that I'm talking about are pure Negro, woolly hair, dark skin. And the most I will, I'm gonna make another video about that myth that Israel is not pure, that we all just mix. But carrying on, it says, and yet this happens despite the roles of the people such as Gaspar Yagawa, a national hero who established a free society for former enslaved blacks. And I'm not good with names. Vicente Gazu, one of the leader general in the Mexican War of Independence of Spain and the second president of Mexico. And see, that's what these camps like to do. I remember when I first came into truth, and I would listen to the camps and they would talk about how the Mexicans was our people, and they was using these taboo things like this, that the second president of Mexico was black. Yes, he was a black man, but that don't mean the whole South America or Mexico are our people. Just like, and more likely he was mixed, you know. I think got a couple of pictures of him. If I can pull it up. Yes, this was the so-called black second president that was black in Mexico. And you could tell he was might been kind of mixed, but you know, or they may just drew him like that. I wasn't back then, I don't know, but he definitely uh was Negro in some type of way. He might not have been full Negro, but he definitely had Negro in him. And they'll try to use that to say because the second president of Mexico was a quote unquote black man, that'll make these people Hebrews. But let me remind you, Obama, quote unquote, this mixed man that was so called black man, was the president of America. Does not make America Hebrew. You know what I'm saying? So the argument is foolish. And as always, you have Negroes that's in the history of these countries that fight for these countries, that make these countries better, but does not benefit. And I'm gonna stop right there. But family, it's clear that these Hebrews that you see right here on my screen are scattered amongst the nation, few in number, and that nation is South America. And those people that they scatter amongst are Mexicans. The same Mexicans that when they come to America, as the scripture says, the strangers amongst you will become higher and you will become low. We come to America being strangers amongst us in the land of our captivity and rise up above us. That's the last video that I done about this. This is part 2, by the way. You can go and check part 1 out about how the Mexicans are strangers amongst us and rising higher among us. Like this is scripture. They are fit in scriptures. And you ain't even gotta force it. Like these are just common sense things that the Most High allowed to be simple for us to understand. But when you try to make Mexicans Hebrews and our people, then you gotta stretch and go deep and try to say, oh, they had a, a man that was a crucified, and he was a fiery serpent, and that identified with Christ, or oh, just all this crazy nonsense stuff. When it's very simple. Follow the prophecy. Read the prophecy. Look at reality. The dark-skinned, woolly-haired people that are scattered amongst the nation, that are being mistreated, overlooked, that are cursed in the city, that are cursed in the field, that don't know who they are, that are called by bywords, African American, Afro Mexican, the people that are not desired, that looked over. And, maybe the third part I do about the racism amongst the Mexicans, amongst our people, and how our people in Mexico are discriminated and looked down upon because of their hair, because of their skin color, just like us Hebrews in America are, no different. But don't let these camps fool you when you hear them talk about the Afro Mexicans. They are talking about the Negroes in Mexico. They're not talking about the Mexicans, the Native Americans, as you want to call them. But it's plain as daylight. Oh, gather yourself together, O nation that's not desired. And we need to stop giving our heritage away. It's trauma, and I understand what it is. It's really a stronghold of self-hate and trauma. So you want to be associated with a people that's not you. And try to say that these people that are not you are associated with you because they got some characteristics that you like about them. But once again, before we end this, if you are of Mexican descent, European descent, Asian descent, if you repent, turn to the Most High, His only begotten Son, keep the commandments, and treat His people with love and respect as if with everybody else, and repent of what your forefathers did, and make reparation in some way, that the kingdom of heaven is offered to you also. But the Negroes that are scattered in the four corners of the earth, you are the people. I don't have nothing against anybody else. I'm just not going to give my inheritance away because of some brothers that has been misled. And I know a lot of them are misled. And they really think this is true. They really think the Mexicans are the northern kingdom. Nah, brother, the northern kingdom scattered through the Babylon captivity, through Assyria, and are on the continent of Africa. Still to this day, many African tribes identify as Gal. as Dan. Till next time, family. Shalom.